3 years ago, La Masia finally produced a world-class midfield talent again. Gavi broke through at only 16 years of age and immediately became a starting 11 player. Barcelona fans loved him. He was just as technical as most other La Masia midfielders, while also having an edge to him that most players don't have. He was aggressive. He fought for every ball. He gave his life for the badge. He seemed like a weird combination of Iniesta and Casemiro. He was one of a kind. In his second season, he kept on improving and he became more and more complete. He was also arguably one of Barcelona's most important players in their La Liga victory that season. Even for Spain at the World Cup in Qatar, he was a pivotal player. So by the time he was 18 years old, Gavi was basically the brightest talent in the world. And last season, in September and October, he became even better. He was arguably Barcelona's best player. He dominated every midfield he faced. He was simply becoming one of the best midfielders in the world. But then, in the game with Spain against Georgia, he tore his ACL, which kept him on the sidelines for the rest of the season. Without him, Barcelona struggled a lot, and we can only wonder what last season would have looked like if it wasn't for Gavi's injury. Fast forward to now, Barcelona are doing great, and very soon Gavi will also be one of Hansi Flick's options in midfield. But what exact role will he have? And how good can he really become under Hansi Flick? Well, that's what we'll take a deeper look at in this video, so let's just get right to it. So where exactly would you put Gavi in Hansi Flick's Barcelona? Well, to be honest, we just want to see the same Gavi that we saw 1 year ago under Xavi. So how exactly did Xavi use him? In the 21-22 season, Gavi played as the more advanced central midfielder, while Busquets was the real defensive midfielder and Frenkie de Jong was also a little deeper than Gavi to help make the play from behind. Gavi was the connection between midfield and attack, and he was crucial for winning the ball back high up the pitch. That is the main role that Gavi initially had at Barcelona. But 1 season later, when Pedri returned from injury, Xavi had to find a way to play with Busquets, Frenkie de Jong, Pedri and Gavi at the same time. So he shifted Gavi to the left and used him as some kind of inverted winger. And that role suited Gavi really well too. His positioning was great and he was involved in a lot of attacks. Again, he was also crucial for winning the ball back high up the pitch. But then, last season, after the departure of Busquets, Gavi mainly played as a pure midfielder again. Sometimes in more of an advanced role, sometimes as part of a double pivot. So long story short, from a tactical point of view, Gavi is just a really versatile player. He's rather offensive minded, while also being a defensive monster. That's what makes Gavi unique. So the question is, where would you put him in Hansi Flick's midfield? Well, he's not going to be the attacking midfielder. There are just too many other players who are better suited for that role. He can, of course, also play as an inverted left winger, but with Rafinha and even other options like Ansu Fati and Pau Victor, the left wing position doesn't seem to be Gavi's ideal position in Hansi Flick's Barcelona. So then you're looking at that double pivot in midfield, and since Gavi is not a natural defensive midfielder, he would probably ideally play as the more advanced midfielder out of those two, in that same role that Pedri has mainly been playing in. The other midfielder really drops deep and needs to have great long passing. That's the perfect role for someone like Marc Casado or also Frenkie de Jong. Gavi doesn't have the same passing skills as Marc Casado, Frenkie de Jong or Pedri, but he does have great press resistance, great positioning, and he can win back balls for you. So Gavi's ideal role is probably in that same position that Pedri has mainly been playing in. And interestingly enough, Gavi has actually already played in a very similar role. Last season, in the game against Real Madrid in October, Gavi played in a double pivot together with Gundogan. He was absolutely astonishing in that game. He dominated the midfield. Real Madrid had a hard time creating chances, mainly because of Gavi who recovered the ball time and time again. When Gavi is the center of the team, he really just makes you win that midfield battle. And that is also why this position is probably even better for him than playing at left wing. Now, in that specific game against Real Madrid, Gundogan was more of the creative midfielder. He needed to find the solutions to go from defense to attack. He had the freedom to roam with the ball and to create openings. Gavi's main role, on the other hand, was to keep the midfield solid, to win back balls, and also to help circulate the ball quickly. So that makes you think, what player does Gavi ideally play next to in the double pivot under Hansi Flick? This needs to be a player with a lot of creativity, with great passing, and who can find the openings to go from defense to attack. If you hear all of those things, there is one player that probably immediately comes to mind for most of you. Frenkie de Jong. Frenkie de Jong and Gavi together. This double pivot just makes sense. Frenkie plays deeper and helps you make the play from behind, and he has also more freedom to roam. Frenkie de Jong is the deep creator, so next to him, you need a player who is more disciplined when it comes to positioning, who can recover a lot of balls, and who is also press resistant. That player is Gavi. These two complement each other really well. And mind you, we have never actually seen Xavi try this last season. Either Gavi or Frenkie de Jong was always out injured, so Xavi didn't really have the chance to give this idea a genuine try. The funny thing with this double pivot is that Busquets wouldn't really be replaced either. Barcelona would just play with 2 other midfielders that were already at Barcelona while Busquets was also still at Barcelona. Gavi and Frenkie de Jong together as a double pivot. We will probably see Hansi Flick give it a genuine try, and I wouldn't be surprised if it works really well. But now you might be thinking, what about Pedri? What about Marc Casado? Can they play next to Gavi as well? Well, Marc Casado and Gavi together works perfectly, I think. Marc Casado is even more of a natural pivot than Frenkie de Jong. His passing is really great, and defensively, this combination is probably even more solid than the previous one. Gavi and Marc Casado together makes sense. As for Pedri, it's a little more complicated. In itself, Gavi and Pedri complement each other really well. They're both technically supreme and very press resistant, while Pedri has better passing and Gavi has better defending. These two were a really good combination as central midfielders when Busquets was still at Barcelona. As a double pivot though, I don't know. One of these two players really needs to drop deep, and frankly neither Gavi or Pedri has that as a natural instinct. At least not in the way that Frenkie de Jong or Marc Casado do. Maybe Pedri has it in his locker to take up this role, he just doesn't seem as natural at it. But wait, can Gavi and Pedri even play together in this Hansi Flick Barcelona team then? Well, Pedri can also play as the attacking midfielder, so we will probably at some point this season still see Gavi and Pedri together on the pitch. And also, it's not as if Hansi Flick needs to play with the same 11 every game. There are a lot of games over the course of the season. There will still be injuries, guaranteed, and he will need to rotate a lot. So it's rather a good thing that there's this much depth in midfield. As a matter of fact, it is probably because there's this many options that there will also be less injuries, because no player will have to be forced back and everyone can be treated with caution. So over the course of the season, we will probably see a lot of midfield combinations from Hansi Flick. He will always be using the same system, but just with a different set of players. But still, with all of these players, it does seem as if someone is going to get less minutes this season. The question is, who will it be? Because it's true, for example, that Pedri can also play as that attacking midfielder, but that's the position that's also perfect and even more suited for Dani Olmo and Fermín López. So it really does seem as if Gavi, Frenkie de Jong, Pedri and Marc Casado will have to share minutes with each other. Right now, it seems as if Pedri and Marc Casado match each other very well, and Gavi and Frenkie de Jong match each other very well. So those are two different double pivots that Hansi Flick can use, and depending on the opponents, he can choose either one of them. At the same time, these guys will often also not play the full game. That'll also help everyone get enough minutes to be satisfied. So in the end, I think everyone will eventually get enough minutes to not consider leaving Barcelona. And Hansi Flick seems to be a really great people manager who is capable of keeping everyone happy as well. So to come back onto Gavi himself, on the pitch there's a role that perfectly suits him in Hansi Flick's Barcelona. The best ever Gavi that we ever saw under Xavi at Barcelona also played in a similar role. In other words, Gavi will probably be insane under Hansi Flick. But that's just the footballing side of things, because Gavi gives you more than just football, he gives you passion. He is the kind of player that Barcelona lacked back in those defeats in Rome and at Anfield. The kind of player who will make a foul just for the sake of keeping his teammates sharp. The kind of player who is not afraid of a yellow card. That's the kind of player that Barcelona lacked in the second half of last season as well. Think about that one weird loss against Villarreal or that loss against PSG in the Champions League. Gavi wouldn't have just let that happen, or at least Barcelona would have put up more of a fight with him. His passion just elevates the rest of the team to a higher level. That's one of Gavi's biggest qualities. Now, mind you, under Hansi Flick, Barcelona have already become way more passionate than they've been in years. Players like Rafinha, Koundé, Lamine Yamal and Marc Casado play as if their life is on the line. And now, Barcelona's most passionate player is about to be added to that. It's just like adding extra gasoline onto a fire that's already burning like hell. It's just perfect. Gavi under Hansi Flick, it makes sense. They have the same cutthroat, merciless mentality. I mean, if there's one Barcelona player that Hansi Flick would have liked to sign for Bayern Munich back in 2020, it might have been Gavi, just for the sake of his mentality. So Barcelona under Hansi Flick might already have been a team full of passion and grit, but with Gavi now back from injury, they'll become even scarier. So yeah, it'll really be interesting to see Gavi under Hansi Flick. That double pivot suits him perfectly, and he will add a lot of fluidity and balance to Barcelona's midfield. But with everyone who is back from injury, it does seem as if Barcelona's midfield is really stacked, which does make you wonder whether everyone will get enough minutes. However, with the busy match schedule and with the risk of injuries, everyone will probably get enough game time in the end. In the dressing room, Gavi has always been one of Barcelona's most important players as well. So to have him back on the pitch now will give Barcelona a huge boost in terms of mentality. something they've lacked ever since he got out injured, really. Hansi Flick's Barcelona already looks really scary, but with Gavi added to it, I don't even know what kind of Barcelona we will see in the coming weeks and months. All I'm saying is, this is the best and most promising Barcelona team we've seen in a very long while, and Gavi is one of the cornerstone players. So, that was it for today's video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and feel free to share your own opinion on Gavi in the comments down below. Força Gavi, Força Barça, and of course, have a good day.